Good evening. We'll call this regular meeting of the Fairborn City Schools Board of Education to order this Thursday, April 12th, 2018. We'll all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
That's okay.
Mrs. Marshall, you call the roll, please.
Yes. Mr. Wilson?
Here.
Mrs. Malott?
Here.
Mr. Browning?
Here.
Mr. McCourt?
Here.
Ms. Reister?
Here.
Okay. May I have a motion to approve the agenda as presented? And there's no amendments this month.
So
I
moved.
know. Don't jinx it.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Reister. Thank you, Mr. Browning.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Motion carries. Move on to the superintendent's report. Mr. North.
Thank you. We're going to start with Dr. Brackenhoff. Dr. Brackenhoff has our spelling bee champs, and we'd like to recognize them, so I'm going to turn this over to Dr. Brackenhoff at this time.
Good evening, everyone. This evening, we are going to recognize the Spelling Bee champions from Fairborn Intermediate School and Baker Middle School. Our Spelling Bee process has changed over the past few years. It used to be that the winner of our city Spelling Bee went on to the Dayton area Spelling Bee, and because of the introduction of vocabulary in the Spelling Bees, now they do an online portion. So our winner from Baker Middle School will be going on to the Dayton area competition and representing our schools. So we're going to start with our Fairborn Intermediate winners. All right. And our school winner at Fairborn Intermediate School is Yusuf Al-Mafarji. And Yusuf, I did not get your grade level in here. He's a 5th grader. Please join us up here. Our 2nd place winner at Fairborn Intermediate School is Kadar Sambi. Kadar is a 4th grader. And our 3rd place winner at Fairborn Intermediate School is Tyler Crowder, a 5th grader. And our Baker Middle School winner, 1st place moving on to the district, is Kiana Briscoe. Did Kiana come in? Okay, hopefully she'll come in before we finish. She was 1st place and was one of the top scorers in the online edition, so she'll be moving on to the Dayton area, and hopefully we will have a Fairborn City Schools student represent us in Washington, D.C. Tied for 2nd place at Baker Middle School is Brooklyn Dalton and Jayana Lewis, if they will come up. And these students represent the top spellers out of over 2,000 probably students in grades 4 through 8 in the city of Fairborn. So they've worked very hard to get here, and I'm really impressed with the work that they've done. So please join me in thanking them again. A reason to get up.
ADs.
And as these students move back to their seats, I'd like to also thank Mr. William Nevis. He is the benefactor for the trophies. His family has provided the Spelling Bee trophies for over 20 years here in Fairborn. Mr. Nevis's mother, Dorothy Nevis, worked at one time at the Board of Education building, I believe as a secretary, and she loved spelling bees. So she attended every single spelling bee during her time here in Fairborn. And after her passing, her son felt that in memory of his parents that he would like to continue that. So he has provided the trophies tonight, and we will make sure he receives an appropriate thank you. Thank you, boys and girls.
Now, for the families that are here for the recognition of your children for the spelling bee, we have quite an agenda. If you want to stay, you're more than welcome to stay. If you want to duck out of here, now's the time. But
Now's the
please,
time.
please stay if you want to.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you for coming. Congratulations.
Yes.
Mr. Nordstrom knows how to clear a room, doesn't he?
Extra credit if you
And
stay.
anybody else who doesn't want to be here, feel free to.
You're late, front row.
Harsh.
We saw you sneak in there.
Even if you're 3 rows back and there's nobody in front of you, you're still front row.
We also have Ms. Vicki Udipole, our primary principal, here with us tonight, and she's going to give you an update with where we are with our work with students in third grade guarantee.
Good evening. Well, this year has been a busy one at Fairborn Primary. We have had about 372 third graders come through our doors. Some have left us, others have come. We've added a handful this week already, and of course it's testing week, so it never fails. For the fall Ohio State test, we had 229 of those students meet third grade reading guarantee. In the winter, we gave the alternate assessment test, the STAR test, as well as the Terra Nova we gave in March. During that time, we had 47 more students meet the third grade reading guarantee, which we were really excited about. We think that now them understanding the computer piece at the STAR, we really got more kiddos that could maneuver that and show their reading skills as well as those computer skills. So with a total of 276 right now that have met the third grade reading guarantee, as you look at exemptions, because there are exemptions for students with disabilities as a possibility, previous retainees, as well as our English language learners, we have 42 students that are yet to meet that third grade reading guarantee. So we're not there yet, so we are optimistic that we're going to get there with them. Some additional supports that we've added since the fall, because we knew there were some things that we needed to do with our students. We've added 2 additional Title I tutors, and they're working with third grade students that had not passed, as well as those that are on RIMS. We have additional RIMS. Anyone that didn't pass that third grade OST in the fall did receive a reading improvement and monitoring plan, and so there's some of those additional interventions and supports that they're receiving. We also have held 3 additional parent meetings this spring. And in the fall, we did our first initial third grade reading guarantee parent meeting, and it was well attended. We had over 100 people that were there. And so we were really excited about getting the word out and parents understanding the importance of this and what that really meant for them and their children. And so we've held 3 additional ones, 2 during the nights of conferences in February for those who had not passed the STAR. So anytime there's been a test, we followed it up with a parent meeting. And we did one-on-one meetings with families and talked to them about the areas that their children needed to work with and what kind of strategies that we could give them, and gave them some materials. We again met on March 27th, right after the Terra Nova was given. We had 9 families show up that night, and those were those families that it was a sad meeting, because you felt like these were the families that they knew, we're going to summer school if something doesn't happen. And they were really involved, really excited about getting the information, again, sitting with them, talking with them one-on-one. We had a local company that we partner with through contractor through Wright-Patterson Air Force Base that provided some door prizes. And those door prizes were to local community areas, anything from Kroger to Starbucks to Walmart, but also books. So they asked us what books would be beneficial to our third graders that families could have. So we did door prizes, and every family left with something. And so that was well received, and excited about that. So we're committed to success and those 42 kiddos passing. So we have secretaries, Mrs. Whited being one of them who's sitting here this evening, as well as administrators. We are reading with kids every day. So it's fun to see Mrs. Whited sitting at the front desk, answering the phone, doing her attendance, and having a little guy sitting beside her during the day, coming up and reading to her. And as administrators, we're sitting in the cafeteria reading with kids. We've also instilled reading to them at lunchtime and talking with them. So it's a team effort, and we're looking at that. We are in our third day of testing this week, and things are going pretty well. Kids are excited. They're talking to us about, I think I did good this time. I think I did good. So we also are gearing up for our current second graders to hold a third grade reading guarantee information meeting for them yet this spring for those families, because then they know what to do this summer to go ahead and start with that preparation. So that's where we are, and we're ready to go. So, all right, thank you. Any questions for anything? All right.
Could I interject one thing? Could you talk a little bit about the addition of the parent letter after each testing event? Because I think this is a really wonderful piece as far as parent communication.
Oh, the parent letter has been wonderful. What we did this year, with the ingenious help of Dr. Brackenhoff as well as Melissa Williams, I don't know if we could have put it together without her, because nail merge and all of that, I just don't do real well. So, but to do all of that data and put it together, what we've done, and I could always get you a sample of that so you could actually see what it looks like, is there has been a letter, and each time there has been one of the tests, the letter is customized to each child that says, yes, your child has met their grade reading guarantee, or they have not. And this is what they needed to get, what they didn't. But when you flip it over on the back, it has a running tally of every single score the child has received. Fall OST, this was their score they needed, this is what they got. Did they meet the guarantee, yes or no? Fall reading, the reading, no, sorry, no, the other score they needed. The other score and then the star. So each time it's come down and it shows you exactly. So when we're meeting with parents, we've kept copies of those, and I just pull it out and I say, okay, Tommy Tucker, this is where he's been on every one of those. So it's a communication, a running communication for families, so that they are completely informed as to what's going on. And I'd be happy to send a copy of that to you so you can just see one of the generic ones. I think it's been really nice and well received by families, because they're showing up with them and they understand completely what those scores mean for their kids.
I just wanted to thank you and the leadership team in the building and the teachers in the building for the level of commitment you're putting into this. And you know, and you're excited about it. That's what's neat also when you're talking about it. And I'm sure that spills over to the kids in the building. So thank you.
All right, you're welcome. Yeah, we rally every morning, so if you want to come tomorrow, we have testing again tomorrow.
Thank you, Vicki. You know, every year, the board hears about the generosity from Mr. Nemus and the story behind how the support come to be with the awards for our students. Tonight, we have the pleasure of Mr. Nemus being here. So I would like to take a moment for Dr. Brackenhoff, for you to share again, because even though you know about all this, Mr. Nemus, it happens because of you. I'd like to take this time to recognize you, if we may. So if you could come up here with Dr. Brackenhoff, please.
Glad that Mr. Nevis was able to join us. As I said, for well over 20 years, his parents have supported. Do you have an actual number? I say well over because I...
Well, in point of fact, I've been thinking a lot about that, and my recollections seem to go back to if the programs that we used to print up in the last few years, used to give the past winners going back to, I think, 77, and I was in, I think, high school at that time, freshman. And at that time, my mother was worked in the central office and the curriculum office. And so she kind of had an ear on what was going on in the district. My memory is a little foggy. I'm not totally certain whether she was involved in putting it together. You know, she heard, you know, a teacher was getting some interest together, or if she just heard about it and said, hey, I want to participate. But nevertheless, she went to the first one and continued to attend many times with my father, certainly as the years, as they got older. Attended every one, and that became more and more of a challenge with health concerns in their later years, and that's how I got recruited to often stand in and represent the family when it comes to you know, our interest in donation. You know, we've had an interest in the school going back so many years. Some of you don't know, I have two older brothers, David and Alan, and class of 71 and 73. And so we've had a very tight relationship with the school system, and we often find that activities that you participate in or support often keep your interest for years to come. So whereas, you know, following cross-country and track and, you know, sports that everyone participated in, they still continue to stay involved with a lot of those kinds of activities as long as they were able to. But the spelling bee was always something special for my mother because of her experience as a child. I think she tells a story of a spelling bee that she, I think, lost in the final round. And for the life of me, I wish I knew what the word was because I heard her say it once. But nevertheless, that always nagged her. And so spelling as a secretary and doing typesetting and document preparation was always an important issue to her. So this was one of those contributions where she said, you know, a lot of people support football and baseball and things like that, and that's fine. They can do that. But how many people are supporting something a little smaller, a little more niche? And this was one of those things where she realized, hey, I can do my part, and it's not that, you know, painful to help the school system. So that's when she got the idea. I'm going to say somewhere maybe in the 80s, I think she volunteered and said, hey, you know, may I donate the trophies on behalf of our family? And they said, sure, happy to let you do that, absolutely. So I think that's how that started. And it was in the last few years that, you know, when being in the hospital or something, there was one famous incident where after my dad had been in the hospital, the two of them were staying temporarily in assisted living, and she said, you know, go to the spelling bee for me. And so I showed up. Believe it or not, I stood in the front row with a cell phone in my hand. I said, can you hear it all right? You know, battlement, B-A-T. Oh yeah. She didn't want to miss it, but so you know, I think of her fondly with things like this, and it's a tradition and a thing that I can maintain for myself, and it's just reassuring for me that, you know, maybe at least for a few people she hasn't been forgotten. So.
Mr. Lewis, may I add too that it's kind of ironic because at this board table there is a 71 and I believe a 73 graduate of Fairborn High School, number one. But if you also will permit me just honoring your father, Oscar.
Yes.
Oscar Nebus, he was a starter for the track group for years and years and years. And
Point of correction, not a starter.
was it the timer?
No, he was clerk of chorus.
Oh, okay. My
So he
fault.
was at the start, so you're kind of close. You're kind of close.
Thank you for
And I'm
that.
glad you mentioned that, because he did that for years,
Yes.
and really too many years.
Yes,
There
yes,
were
indeed.
There were the last few years when we were, heart palpitations, because he'd be out there and he's in his 70s, and he's with 17-year-olds, and he's, okay, guys, let's go, and he's trying to jog down the and I'm saying,
You would see him running down the track to
We'd
bring
say,
him to the
doing
gates.
that.
I mean,
they're not that big of a hurry. And then I
Yeah.
started asking the meat people, I said, can we have like an assistant? And so that really helped, because then he could sit down and look over the next race and get those runners lined up. And one of the other teachers would run the guys down and make sure they kept in their lane and did all the instructions down there. So those last few years, we squeezed out the last bit of the toothpaste, if you will. Sure. And believe me, it was hard for them to give up, the participating. And that's, next week I'll have to show up to the relays to witness that as well, because our family has supported the awards for the 4x400 boys race, and of course that's the last one. So every year I have to pack up after dark and drive over, hopefully within a half an hour of the start, to sit out there and watch the race and think of Mom and Dad, because she would be cheering them on. The reason why that was so important is my brother David went to Ohio, Columbus, Ohio, to the state with his team for the mile relay that year. And so he established that interest in our family. The other brother did a lot more distance races and such, but David got that one level further, going up to state. So that's kind of a little bit of the history of our family with the schools. And so, and I'd like to just, on behalf of our family, I'd like to thank the superintendent and administrators and all the teachers, and certainly thank the parents who support their kids in this effort. It's a lonely pursuit, I'm sure, because it's not glamorous, but I'll bet when they're sitting at their desk in college trying to write that composition, they'll be glad they don't have to sit there and keep using correction apps in order to finish their term paper. So
Again, we would like to thank William and his family for their dedication over the years. They represent the kind of community that we live in, and again, their dedication to the Spelling Bee program as well as numerous other things is very much appreciated. So William, thank you very much.
Next item on the superintendent report, at the beginning of the school year, Ms. Gayhart, along with Dr. Brackenhoff, talked to the board about the new additional requirements from the state for seniors to be eligible for graduation. Since that time, a plan has been put in place to address alternate pathways, as well as additional support to ensure that as many seniors as possible will be able to meet these new requirements. So Ms. Gayhart is here tonight to give you an update on where we're at with that process.
Good evening. So I've spoke with you a couple times already this year and kind of told you the process that we've gone through with the alternate pathway. With it being new, it's been a little bit of a learning curve, but we have chose to be very proactive in order to stay ahead of things and there not be any surprises come, the next month. Graduation is just around the corner. So we currently have 24 students who are pursuing the alternate pathway. I have been in contact with these students every couple of weeks. They, every time they come in, it's kind of funny because they'll say, "Am I in trouble?" "Nope, we just need to talk about graduation again." So I actually have a parent coming in tomorrow. I've got one student who's faltering a little bit, but we have time to pull it together. And so I made contact, and Mom said, "I'd rather just come in and talk to you face to face." I've been in touch with the Career Center counselors, making sure that our students that are at the Career Center are, following that alternate pathway, as they have kind of monitored them through their own set of requirements. And some of our students have actually already fulfilled the requirements that they needed to complete, and they are good to go. And those are awesome conversations to get to have, to say, "Congratulations, pass your classes, get your credits, you're going to graduate." And it's really a weight off their shoulders as well. So we're on track. 3 of our 6 requirements are items that we had to have kind of a cutoff date so that we could verify those prior to graduation, and that's the end of the first week in May. So again, here in the next couple of weeks, we're just going to make sure that we follow up with kids and that we know that they're going to get there come that end of the last week of May, so that there are no surprises. So we're on track, and again, with the exception of that one student who we still can make it happen, everybody is doing what they need to do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have 2 special guests with us this evening. Usually we have one. We have Mike and Dave with us. Mike is now board president, correct? Board president of the Greene County Career Center, and Dave is still superintendent.
Thank
I
you,
didn't know if
sir.
they promoted you, gave you a new title or something.
It's still one vote. Just I have more meetings to go to. And board, thank you very much for allowing us to come here periodically and give you an update on what's going on at the Career Center. I told you last fall that we were in the midst of some big stuff and that we're going to come back and talk to you about it. Now, there's such big stuff going on that I invited Mr. Deskins to actually say something about it, because he actually is the one who knows what's going on.
Thank you very much, Mr. Eaker, Mr. Wilson, Mr. North, Ms. Marshall. Thanks for allowing me to come tonight. Ladies and gentlemen of the board, it's an exciting time in the county. As you all know and are working towards new building construction, there's a lot of fun happening in your community. You're sensing that excitement. I'm a little distance away, but not too far, and I hear about that excitement. So that's a very positive thing. One thing we know about schools and about education is that very consistently, real estate prices, educational issues, and economic development make or break communities. And so your community's desire to support your schools and allow you to move forward and advance is going to be something that helps your community immensely. So a lot of things going on, but before I start to share some of that, this is just like deja vu, but I was the county co-finalist spelling bee champion in the 5th grade. At the county spelling bee competition, it came down to 2 finalists from 2 different schools in the county. I didn't know for sure who the other candidate was. I just knew I needed to go in there and win to represent our hometown school the best. And the most unthinkable thing ever happened. As I came out one side of the stage and the other candidate came out the other, it was the girl I had a crush on from another school community. And so it was on, because I had to be sure I won this spelling bee competition. I think probably, Mr. Nebus, it's your mom's fault. She probably started it in all of Ohio. Into word 11, we're going at it, and it's one of the greatest spelling bees like ever in the history of this county, until they delivered my 12th word, Czechoslovakia, as a 10-year-old. I had no chance whatsoever. When they told me there was a Z in the word, I was devastated. From that point on, I refused to participate in any spelling bees because I was so humiliated that this gal I had a crush on just kicked my tail in the competition. Anyways, thank you for the bad, sad memories tonight. I'm being able to relive that. So let me talk about just a couple things going on. This board is aware that we've been working on an initiative for a couple of years around certain types of career paths that we conducted a market analysis on. That market analysis specifically was taking a look at jobs in the aerospace industry in our region. And so this market analysis revealed to us that there are a substantial number of jobs in this area of Greene County and in the Miami Valley region pertaining to aerospace, specifically in the fields of engineering, manufacturing, and information technologies. So those three target areas, the job numbers were pretty substantial. Those job numbers live on. Just this morning, a colonel from the base announced 200 civilian jobs available today at Wright-Patt Air Force Base. So we know that these are job needs in the region, and we feel a responsibility as a county to address that and make sure that we're giving just vibrant workforce to our local region. So you are also aware that we went through some challenges with the heating and cooling system. That heating and cooling system resulted in the School Facilities Commission telling us in September of 2016 that we were going to need to invest $24 million in our current building to bring it back into code and compliance. That, of course, created a challenge for our board. Is it logical to invest $24 million in a 50-year-old building, as 1967 was our opening year? So the board kind of put me to task. They said, so we need to go find the rest of the money to build like a newer career center that we can add to the cost and expand into these aerospace careers. So charge number one was really pretty simple. They said, go see if we can get it from the state. So we tried. We really gave it a good run. We actually were successful in getting language in the budget bill that would have changed Ohio law to allow the School Facilities Commission to support new construction for career centers in Ohio. It made it through the Senate version of the bill, and it made it through the House version of the bill, and the governor appointed a conference committee to review the 2,400 items in the bill. 47 items were line item vetoed by Governor Kasich, and one of those was our proposed language. So the state said, no, thank you. We're not going to take on that added cost. The board's next charge was, well, okay, that's fine. We still really would like to avoid having to go to our voters, go check into private industry. See if you can get private industry to help contribute the difference that we're going to need to make this a reality in the region. While private industry is pretty interested in helping us in the way of donation of equipment and different kinds of things, they're not comfortable paying for bricks and mortars in our communities. And so that option was of no avail to us. So the board then said, what if we're going to have to go back to our voters? How are they going to feel about that? So in December of 2017, we contracted the Fallon Research Group out of Columbus. I think this district's familiar with them. They came on board and they conducted a countywide survey of registered voters, not just in Fairborn, but across the county. And so we really were after three things in that survey. The first thing we wanted to know was, what's the public's feel for the Career Center? Are they generally satisfied with what we're doing? Do they have confidence in what we're delivering, or don't they? Question one. Question number two, this whole idea of the Take Flight initiative, jobs around aerospace in our region, how does the communities feel about that topic? And then question number three, which of course is the most meaningful, are you willing to help us pay for it? So the survey was conducted just shortly before Christmas this year, and interestingly enough, the results were very telling. 77% of the responded registered voters communicated that they had confidence in the Career Center, they believed in the things that we did, and felt it was important to the region. Over 90% approval rating from our registered voters on the concept of creating jobs around aerospace and careers related to aerospace based on the market analysis. Logical for us because of our proximity to the base. Our consultant was a little charged. He used the term, it is wildly popular. I generally don't see voter approval ratings in the 90s consistently across every question. So that was really favorable news for our board. And then the big question, is our public willing to help us pay for it? So the second question in the survey, before we got into any detail about Take Flight, was talk about your comfort level with your current property taxes. Are they too high, too low, or just about right? Every superintendent's nightmare was a 50-50 split. 50% said our taxes are too high, 50% said our taxes are about right or too low. Very small percentage, by the way, saying they were too low. So that led us then to kind of explore and explain more about the Take Flight initiative, what we were actually after, why we felt like this could be very important to the region. And following the questions related to that, near the end of the survey, we came back and asked this question. So now that you know more about this Take Flight concept, if it becomes necessary for the Career Center to construct or equip with new technologies for jobs in aerospace, engineering, manufacturing, and IT, how confident are you that the public should help us pay for that in the way of a levy and an increase in taxes? Pretty pointed question. 59% said yes, 41% said no. So all of a sudden, we were sitting on a 60-40 difference. At that point in time, our board said, it's time. We need to move forward. Our public is telling us that they think this is an important thing for our region, so we're going to need to go down that path. So ultimately, that's pretty much what the survey told us. The board then immediately hired a Criterion architect firm, Freitag and Associate firm, to begin working with us on designing square footage, the size of the building, the kinds of things we wanted to be sure that we had, not only for our existing programs, but also for the programs we wanted to expand into. We began pursuing a design-build firm, and our board is scheduled to make a decision on a design-build firm at their meeting next week to award a contract and to encourage our connectivity to a firm to actually make this a reality for us here in Greene County. We also brought the services in of a municipal advisor, and last night at about a 2.5 hour, I think, Mr. Eaker, thank you, work session, our Board of Education had presentations from the design-build firm and also from our municipal advisors, and the outcome of that is this message. We believe, we don't believe, we will be on the ballot in November. We believe we will be on the ballot for a millage amount of between 1.03 and 1.05 mils. So we're talking about, for a $100,000 homeowner, between $36 and about $40 a year to be able to build a new state-of-the-art career center that circles around aerospace and careers that we know there are jobs for in this region. Why can we go that small? Because unlike each of your individual communities, the Career Center draws from each community in the county. So if you check your tax base and look at your little pie chart, the majority of your taxes go to your home school district, but a very small portion of your tax base goes to the Career Center. So because we get to draw from all communities and not just one, the Career Center's fortunate to be able to look at a smaller millage amount, which we believe, based on the survey, our public is ready and prepared to support. So that's really exciting for us that we can offer this kind of a new facility for such a small bond amount. We're anticipating that the savings and the work that's been done is going to allow us to be able to contribute some towards that, so that we were able to keep that number at a pretty small impact. When I broke down the 1.03 millage rate, it equated to 12 cents a day. So we were pretty hopeful that our public will see the value in this for the region. So we are asking all of our boards of education for your support within your communities to make this a reality for the portion of students from each of the schools who take advantage of the Career Center. And that's really big news for us. Now, while we were waiting, trying to fight through the state legislation to see if we might get lucky for state funding, we also made application through the Dayton Development Coalition for a application process for additional state revenues. So each year, if Ohio has additional money, they take in more than they pay out, they put a portion of that in the rainy day fund, and then they return funds back to different regions of the state. The Dayton Development Coalition is one of those regions that's eligible for that, and they have an application process, so we decided to apply in November. We put in a request for $1.9 million to the Dayton Development Coalition, asking for funding that would allow us to start the first phase of a project at the Greene County Airport. We would build a hangar out there, and we would create a A&P mechanic program. Right now we have about 500 job openings for airline mechanics in our region. So we made application. Our project was one of 62 that were submitted to the Dayton Development Coalition for the entire region. And the Greene County Career Center's Take Flight Initiative was the highest scored project by the DDC. 2 weeks ago tomorrow, the governor signed the budget bill that is awarding $850,000 to the Career Center to start this first phase project at the Greene County Airport. So there are some exciting things going on. I would be remiss to not thank our board. Mr. Eaker and the other members of our board are putting in countless hours as we're digging in heavy and moving quickly to try to make this a reality. In addition to that, I just want to kind of give a plug to Mr. North. So I've been a superintendent for, 10 or 12 years. I've been in K-12 schools, I've been in private schools, and I've been in career tech centers. On a monthly basis, the superintendent of the Fairborn schools walks into my career center because he wants to go meet Fairborn students and check out what they're doing in their career tech labs in my facility. And I need to tell you, there is not another superintendent in our county that's doing that on a regular basis. So I'm really grateful for that, Mr. North, your promotion of that for kids, for Fairborn students, but in general, for all the kids you encounter at the Career Center is very admirable. So I'm really grateful for that. With all of that being shared, I will be happy to entertain any questions. Mr. Eaker, if you have anything else you'd like.
I just want to point out that he mentioned the millage. This is going to be just a 20-year note, so it's not going to go on forever. Again, because of the tax base throughout the county, we don't have to go for 35 or 40 years. So we think that this makes a lot of sense when you think about the kind of jobs. And, oh, by the way, as I've said before, the aerospace skill sets are very similar to the skill sets required for automotive manufacturing and medical products. And that was part of the survey, and part of the work that we've done to do the analysis on it. So we think that it's concentrating, and we talk about take flight, but it's for anybody that wants to get their hands dirty and do something that produces a product or provides a service. The aircraft and power plant mechanics, 500 vacancies, and those are good paying jobs. I mean, they are. I know guys that are making 6 figures, so and they don't require a degree. It's a certification. If somebody's good with their hands, that's a hell of a. I'm sorry. That's really.
Really glad the students have left the room. So that's perfect.
You talked about what you want to do at the airport. What about the other building? And I'm hearing lots of rumors.
Oh, yes,
that
ma'am.
maybe you're not even going to stay there, you're going to go somewhere else. I'd like to know what is really going to happen.
Yeah, that's the question of the century. So the board has been looking at various properties. Of course, the Career Center currently owns 2 properties, neither of which are perfectly located in terms of visibility and access, particularly for adult ed programming, which is why adult ed programming has really significantly shrunk out there. So we are not yet ready to announce the where. We are looking at a number of properties. We get the same question everywhere we go. People want to know, what am I going to have to pay? What's the new building going to look like? And what's going to happen to the other building? Right. So one of the things that's important, has been important to us and the board, is to try to stay centralized to the county. One of the concerns was if we went to the east or the west coasts, it would be too far transportation-wise for students. So I think it's probably a safe guess. Most of the properties that we've narrowed down to, and from facility perspectives, the first thing we did was examine every existing structure that had the square footage we could use to see if there could be a facility that could be remodeled. After we were unsuccessful doing that, then we began looking very strategically at different properties around the county. There were some that were offered and we were invited to consider, but they were too far to one corner of the county and wouldn't best serve all the students in Greene County. So I think it's probably a safe bet to say that the board has spent probably the majority of their time considering properties in the Xenia area. That would be Xenia City area or Xenia Township area, because that's the most centralized part of Greene County and the central point for most of the schools. So I don't know if I answered like completely your question, but I'm hoping I tried. Yes, and then the other thing I want to share, because we have heard that there are rumors going around that we're going to create, and it's funny how rumors start. People just sort of create their own reality sometime. One of the things that I would stress is we are not stopping the Career Center in the form of the programs that we currently offer. So it's our intention that this is an expansion. We're going to continue providing the job training and getting kids ready for college and for careers exactly as we have in the past. We're just looking to expand into some additional job markets that we know there are a lot of jobs for here in the region. So as others come to you and have conversation, you are now the most informed. So are there other questions for us at all?
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, and we really appreciate it. For all of us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Where are you guys going?
They got an early morning meeting.
Thank you all.
They got a rah-rah at 6 a.m.
Thank you, Ms. Vickers.
Thank you, Dave. All right, that's it for superintendent's update.
That's it?
Geez, after your update, everybody, you lose the house. Yeah, you got rid of everybody. Okay, we'll move on to recognition of visitors. If there is anyone that wishes to address the board, please step up to the microphone, state your name and address, and the purpose for addressing the board. Limit your comments to 5 minutes.
Ann Foster, Fairborn, Ohio.
Hi, Ann.
I just wanted to give you a brief update on Eddie Eagle. Unfortunately, I had a death in the family, so I haven't been able to make a whole lot of progress. But I will have at the next time much more information for you. I've got handouts for each of the, pre-K through K, first through second, second through third and fourth, and a parent and instructor thing. I need to make copies of those, though, so you all will have them. And that's where I kind of fell down a little bit. But also another thing I'm involved in and that I'm aware of through a friend that had to move away, that you have in, I believe, the elementary schools, some breeding programs that involve dogs. Beaufort Possibility in Xenia does that too. And that might be something that would be a good thing to continue. This is all I'm saying. So thank you.
Thank you, Ann.
Thank you, Ann.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to the approval of the minutes from the Thursday, March 1st regular meeting. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Browning.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Reister. Any questions, comments, corrections? Okay, vote.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Motion carries. Item 8, the treasurer's report. Mrs. Marshall.
It went to sleep.
30th. Oh, I forgot about the microphone. Thanks. Ended June 30th, and we are receiving the Clean Audit Award again this year from the Auditor of State's Office. So we're excited about that. Joe Braden will be at the board office on Monday, the 16th at 5 p.m. So if anybody would like to come and see us get the award, we'll be there. Okay, so this month we're going over, I don't want to stand in the board's way. I'm sorry. I'll try not to. We're going to go over the February 2018 report. Not a whole lot of changes from the last few months. Our revenues are up. It's mostly just due to timing because we receive advances in our property tax revenue. Overall, we do expect our revenue to be up because of the state foundation funding. Property tax revenue will be down slightly because of our higher collections last year with delinquent property taxes. We've received 70.64% of the total forecast amount. We are updating the 5-year forecast. It's due to ODE by May 31st. I would like to have it on the special board meeting agenda for May 24th. So we have a special board meeting, I forgot to mention that, scheduled for May 24th at 5 p.m. And the purpose of the meeting will be to consider the 5-year forecast and also to hopefully accept the bid for the early site work on the primary school, which is very exciting. For expenditures, our total expenditures are up. As expected, we were transferring more money out of the general fund to cover some future needs and some capital improvement needs. And also we have our, regular increases due to negotiated raises and supplies and capital outlay. We've spent 65.01% of the total forecast amount for the year. Our general fund cash balance was $25.5 million at the end of February. We had $3.8 million in outstanding encumbrances and $21.7 million in an unencumbered balance. This is our cash balance for each month during the fiscal year. As of the end of February, we had about $2.5 million in personnel costs and average monthly expenses, a little over $1 million in everything else for a total of $3.6 million. We had 341 certified employees and 263 classified employees. And this is our schedule of investments for our operating accounts and our schedule of investments for our bond construction accounts. And this is our check reconciliation. And we had $9,726.45 in the payroll clearance account. That's all I have. Are there any questions from the board?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations on the clean audit.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Congratulations. That's 5 years in a row now?
This is the 5th year, yes.
Good.
It's very
Impressive.
exciting.
Okay, we'll move on to item 9, the consent agenda, which runs through page 7 in the agenda. Call your attention on page 6, item 12. There are 2 retirements from the classified staff. We have Catherine Doggett, preschool assistant, and requested resolution of tribute for 18 years of service with Fairborn City Schools, and Irene Montalvo, secretary at Baker Middle School, request a resolution of tribute for 22 years of service with Fairborn City Schools. So wish them the best in their retirements. It's a wonderful program.
Here, here.
May I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. McCourt.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Reister. Any questions, comments about any of these issues? Okay, call the roll.
Mr. McCourt?
Yes.
Ms. Reister?
Yes.
Mr. Browning?
Yes.
Mrs. Malad?
Yes.
Mr. Wilson?
Yes, motion carries. Item 10, the treasurer's office. Then and now purchase order, disposal of some fixed assets and some standard resolution. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Browning.
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Malad. Any questions, comments?
I'll just mention a couple of things. The resolution is the last step in the budget process. We had our tax budget in January. Budget Commission approved it, and now they're certifying rates so that
Yeah.
we can collect taxes on that. Then and now purchase orders, the SHP Leading Design, that's for their work that they've done on the high school auditorium lighting project. So
Okay.
we got invoices before, we were able to get purchase orders in place, so.
We'll be seeing more invoices with SH&P because their engineers are overseeing the bid, state approved bids for the HVAC as well as the installation of the new HVAC portion of the high school.
And you should see a resolution for the state pricing bid on the May board agenda. Is that what we're working on?
Yep.
Yeah. Any questions?
So next year, the high school will have heat and air.
Oh,
It'll be nice.
and good lighting in the auditorium.
Yes.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Call the roll, please.
Mr. Browning?
Yes.
Mrs. Malott?
Yes.
Mr. McCourt?
Yes.
Ms. Reister?
Yes.
Mr. Wilson?
Yes, motion carries. Item E, the financial report for checks paid. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Browning, and I will second that. Any questions, comments?
I have a comment. Mr. McCourt recently took a job at the local hardware store here. They are one of our vendors that we pay each month, so he will also be abstaining from my checks paid report. I'm running out of board members to vote on my financial report. But
Do we refer to
So
you
I
as the
can't-
handyman now?
That's it. That's it. Or Ace.
You
So I
can't get a job.
I can't get a job at Ace Hardware either?
Please don't.
We're well represented tonight.
Call the roll, please.
Mr. Browning?
Yes.
Mr. Wilson?
Yes.
Mr. McCourt?
Abstain.
Mrs. Malott?
Yes.
Ms. Reister?
Abstain.
Motion carries.
One of you guys voted
Item
no. I don't know.
11, gifts and donations. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Browning.
Second?
Thank you, Mr. McCourt. And we will have Ms. Reister run through these tonight.
All right, we have Laura Connor with a $500 donation to the athletic department. We have the Fairborn Community Library with a set of World Book 2016 and one set of World Book 2017 encyclopedias valued at approximately $2,200. Ackerman Relays, we have an anonymous donation of $100. Kevin Ackerman, $100. Jane Clifton, $100. Joan Dautel, $100. Flatterer Insurance Agency, $100. The Gayhart Family, $100. Jack and Judy Gayhart, $100. Ed Gibbons, $100. Town and Country Animal Clinic, $100. Kendra Welton, $100. Tim and Kathy Wolf, $100.
Okay.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Motion carries. And moving on to item 12, which doesn't require a motion, so.
Let me read through those two.
Read through those two.
All right. So acknowledgement of contributions made to other organizations that benefit Fairborn City Schools. For Hall of Honor, we have Bill and Jane Arnold, $50 white donor. Kevin Ackerman, $100. Jeff Billows, $100. Joan Dautel, $100. First Baptist Church, $50. Mr. Gene Fisher, $50. Chris and Pam Gayhart, $100. Ed Gibbons, $100. Barbara Elmore Harshman, $200. John Hobbs, $50. John R. and Judy Hobbs, $50. Ann Armstrong Inglesbury and Bob Inglesbury, $50. Miss Peggy Jeans, $25. Paul and Linda Keller, $25. Carrie, I'm sorry, I'm going to butcher this. Ketrig, $100. Michelle Lee, $100. Mr. Bruce Lamar, $50. Laurel and Betsy Mayer, $25. David Allen and William Neebs, $100. And that is in memory of Oscar and Dorothy Neebs. Barbara Parsons, $25. Mrs. Rosalie Roots, $25. Michael J. Saylor from MicroStrategy, $1,000. Mary and Phil Spar, $50. And that is in honor of Timothy Spar, PhD, Hall of Honor 1997, and Thomas Spar, Hall of Honor 2008. Rear Admiral and Mrs. John Spencer, $100. Mike and Carolyn Eaker, $100.
Not butcher this name.
I'm going to keep it clean. Andy and Donna Wilson, $100. Honorable Stephen Wolliver, $50.
Okay. And again, thank you for all of the organizations that continue to contribute to various items in the school district here. See the same names over and over again in many cases. Item 13, new business for the Board of Education, which is a rather extensive list of things. There's one item on here. We have a resolution for the board to express their objection to House Bill 512, which is the bill that will have the governor essentially taking over most of the duties of the Department of Education, which is a really scary thought. Because it would be a government appointee rather than an elected official in charge of public education in the school, which is just subject to massive changes of direction and inconsistency. So, okay, may I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Reister.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Browning. Any other questions, comments, elaborations on any of these issues?
I feel the need, I should just go through the list.
Go ahead.
I think it would be.
Go ahead.
Okay.
So, items A, B, and C, we have a few memorandums of understanding with our 3 different union groups. That's just cleanup from contract language and other things that have come up. Item D, we have approved the design development of stage submission for the new Fairborn Primary School. So this is, and the early site bid package for the new primary school, and also authorizing us to solicit bids for the work. So it's very exciting. We're approving the development design stage and also approving early site work. So we will be publishing bids for that starting on Monday. Will be in the Dayton Daily News and every Monday for the next 3 Mondays. And then May 24th, hopefully, we'll get to accept the lowest responsible bidder for that. And then item E, we have 2 contracts with Schultz Squared. Schultz Squared is a third-party peer review company that has been approved by the OFCC to review our project. It's a requirement of them. They've approved it. So really, it's just a formality that the board approve it here tonight. We have 2 projects. The SHP is working on that we talked about earlier, the HVAC improvements here at the high school, and also the auditorium lighting improvements here at the high school. We have a resolution to award the contract for the Fairborn High School auditorium lighting improvements. We've bid that project out. We selected the lowest responsible bidder as required by law. So that resolution will allow me and Mr. North to sign the contract once our architects get that together. Items H and I are our annual contracts with the ESCs in Montgomery County and Greene County. We have item J is for our kids that are transitioning from Head Start in Clark County to the preschool here in Fairborn. The resolution that Andy just talked about, House Bill 512, is item K. We have our out-of-state excursion plan for the Air Force ROTC, and then professional leave are the last two items.
Okay.
Any questions?
Would like to ask the board members to stay after the adjournment so they can sign the
Yes,
resolution.
thank you. I meant to mention that. I have that here. I'd like everyone's signature before we leave tonight.
No problem.
Any other questions, comments? Call the roll, please.
Ms. Reister?
Yes.
Mr. Browning?
Yes.
Mr. McCourt?
Yes.
Mrs. Milan?
Yes.
Mr. Wilson?
Yes, motion carries. Okay, we'll move on to item 14, member good of the order. Mr. McCourt.
Okay, a few things. Fall Sports Awards program, I was able to attend and get to see a lot of our winter sports athletes and parents there, and another good crop of athletes. The softball fields and the baseball fields we're working on with new bleachers. They're starting to really look real nice. I know Mr. North was out painting dugouts earlier today, but doing a nice job out there and really making our facilities look even better. Thanks as always to the custodians, our bus drivers, maintenance people, and as I mentioned, she snuck out of here, but Whitney, we sure appreciate the coverage we get from her in the newspapers. The senior trip, we were here, a few of us board members were here to see the seniors off to their trip, and I really enjoy coming to see them off. I don't really enjoy all that much coming to see them when they come back, because
midnight.
they're so excited going out, and they're worn out when they come back. So, but it was really something good to see. The Career Center, the presentation tonight, if you get a chance, go out and see the Career Center. They're really doing wonderful things out there. One thing I'd like to share that Mark shared with me this morning, as Mr. Deskins mentioned about the jobs available at Wright-Patterson. I know Mr. North is talking to counselors to maybe have our students maybe get out there for summer jobs and maybe land some jobs out there to help our students once they graduate or get into the summer. But also, another nice thing coming out of that meeting, we're told that there are more people inquiring coming into Fairborn than there are houses available. So I think a lot of things are going here with the city, with schools, with everything else we got going, and I think we're attracting more people. I think that average housing in the Fairborn area is probably going up quite a bit as well. So those are some of the things. And one more thing about the Nevis family, I forgot to mention. If you ever watch the news at 6 o'clock, for years, Mrs. Nevis was the weather watcher. And Carl Day, or whoever it was, was always saying, Dorothy Nevis out in Fairborn says that there was 2 inches of rain last night. So that family wore a lot of hats. 24 years, wonderful. Well, thank you, Bill, for being here, and we appreciate you, and we keep your family in our memories. That's all I have.
Ms. Reister.
So I popped in a little early to the Baker Spring Fling throwback dance, and that was interesting. They were very creative. Some of them were very creative in their throwback outfits. I think they ranged from the 80s to the 70s.
60s, yeah.
60s, yeah. So it was fun to see them really having a good time and engaged in that progress, or in that whole program. I also attended the March Madness at Baker Middle School. If you've never been to March Madness, it really truly is madness. teachers and kids, like, it was serious competition in volleyball and basketball, and it was a lot of fun to see the teachers dancing and being, I guess, for lack of a better term, human to their students. You know, to kind of take off that teacher hat and have fun, and to see the students engage with the teachers, you know, and cheering each other on, and the friendly competition. It was good. And then I also had the honor of attending the Fairborn High School festive concert, which, as always, is fantastic because I may be a little biased, but our music program is amazing. That's it. I'm done.
Okay. Mr. Browning?
Okay, I wanted to start off with, I was looking at what we went to this past month, and really, one of the first things after the last board meeting was the student and staff of the quarter presentation, and for anybody that hasn't been to that, that is a very, very neat program. The excitement with the students, the excitement with the parents, and with the grandparents and everybody that come. I just really like it because it rewards the kids and the staff members that, put a lot of effort into every day at school. And I want to thank Mark, Mr. North, because he was the person that brought that to the district, and it's a great program, and I just enjoy that every quarter. The music department, we had the choir concert and we had the band festive concert. And one of the things I like about that is you see the young ages through, the seniors, and you can see the improvement and the development in the kids, from the early age versus when they're getting ready to graduate. The other thing at the band concert I thought was neat was they actually had ensembles there this time, and the ensembles were the various groups. There were 4 of them, various groups that all got superior ratings at the OMEA, and a lot of them played some of the hardest music you could play. So it was really neat featuring those kids in that concert also. Pat mentioned the winter sports. The only thing I wanted to add to that was Sean Monroe, Jr. was first team All-League in basketball, which is a real accomplishment, I think. The other thing was the intermediate musical Joust, and it was a medieval musical, and it was really cute. The set and the work that those kids put into that musical I thought was outstanding. And then the final thing was this past Sunday, the indoor drum line ended up getting 4th place at MIPO, which is the championships. They've got one more, which is, Winterguard International this next week. But it's an accomplishment to get 4th place. They were very, very close to placing in the top 3. So that's it.
Mrs.
Ready?
Malone?
All right. I had the pleasure of serving as the MC at the Speaker Series event at Baker Middle School on April 16th that Marcy Boone and Andrew Bauman are doing with their classes. They've really established a neat program there, having different speakers and different genres come and talk. This is, what are we, year 4 now?
I think so, yeah.
Andy and I will be back with them again on May 17th for their final. It's the first year I have a child trying to compete. She decided to sing, so I'll let you know how that goes. Fortunately, I am not a judge, so I don't get to say whether she's doing well or not. But it's a really neat program that they've put together, and all the kids who do end up competing win some pretty significant prizes. They get to go to the State House with Representative Perales for the political speech. They get to spend some time with Brooke Moore at WDTN for the news journal. Somebody wins a Chromebook, right?
Yeah.
So it's really, really neat stuff that they're doing this last quarter over there for the 7th grade, meeting those education goals in English and in public speaking. So very cool. And I don't know if those of you follow Power of the Pen at all. It's a 7th grade writing, or 6th, 7th, 8th grade writing competition, and it bombed this year because the founder passed away. So our teachers over at the middle school have been working very hard to find something else for our kids to do, and that competition is coming up on April 21st. They have decided to join the Penn Ohio group, and our kids who are our writers at the middle school will be going there to compete, so we wish them all the best of luck. And other than that, I think that's all I have, so thank you.
Okay. Well, we, just after the the March board meeting, several of us attended the Ohio School Boards Association Southwest meeting and awards ceremony, where Mr. North was honored as being the outstanding superintendent for the Southwest Ohio district. So congratulations, Mr. North. See, you thought you were going to get away without,
You just reminded me that I forgot to put that the board was recognized 2 years in a row for gold level recognition for your effectiveness, and I forgot to bring the plaque. So I don't know how outstanding I am. I forget to do something that important.
well, with everything on your plate, building new buildings and everything, it's understandable. Yeah, I attended some of these concerts that have been mentioned here, which, yeah, those band concerts, those are phenomenal to go to, as are the choir concerts and the string concerts. Are just the effort that the students put forth and the staff members, and the limited time that they have to put these programs together is just amazing that they accomplish what they do, because we used to meet every day in our band in high school and sometimes not do as well as this band does, meeting a couple of times a week. So there's a full calendar of things coming up for April and May. But I will mention a couple of things. On the 21st at 7 o'clock, Greg Johnson, the astronaut that is a Fairborn High School graduate, will be here. It's a program that's it's a $10 admission fee. It's a fundraiser for the Veterans Memorial. $10 for adults, $5 for students. So that'll be
Great.
a very exciting, very interesting program. So.
Can I add that there's been some donations made by somebody, so students that wouldn't be able to come about 20 tickets worth.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Also on the 21st, I'll be working with the junior ROTC cadets with honeysuckle removal in Community Park. And then on the 23rd, 24th, and 25th in the afternoon, we'll be working with them to plant over 250 trees and shrubs at the entrance to Fairfield Park to finalize the landscaping of that. It was partially funded by some state money and so forth. So that's coming up. So that's all I have to say. So.
That's it.
Mr. Wilson?
Yes.
Before the board leaves tonight, I need to have a date that you have a consensus on for the groundbreaking ceremony for the primary building. So if sometime tonight you could discuss that and
Okay.
let me know what date is good for you, then I'll start working on that agenda and getting that organized.
June 1st.
Do that after adjournment.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Motion to adjourn.
Moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Easter. Thank you, Mr. Browning.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Motion carries. We're adjourned.